Welcome to the MarketMYSTR show, the show made exclusively for short-term rental owners and co-hosts that actually works, so you can stop wasting time and money on short-term rental and co-hosting marketing strategies that don't work. Listen in for tips, tricks, and our book solid, move the needle, and core 4 marketing strategies. Here's your host, Scott Hill.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the MarketMYSTR show. We think we're veterans, Jeremy, but clearly our guest has put us in our place in terms of podcast episodes. We're going to get to learn and know a lot about our special guest today. But for those of you who are first here, the MarketMYSTR show is titled the MarketMYSTR show, but we've recently gotten really focused on co-hosting and how people are building co-hosting businesses. And I think that's what's made us valuable recently. And today is no exception. We've got a special guest. His name is Jason Muth, and this story is phenomenal. You're going to want to listen to it. But as I said, this dude's a veteran podcaster too, over 200 episodes. So anyway, he's going to be probably really good to interview, and we're going to interview him after we get off, and he's going to tell us what we did wrong so we can get better. So Jason, welcome. I usually start by saying welcome to my co-host, Jeremy. So Jeremy, I'll do that quickly first.
Cool, thanks. No, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited for it. Met Jason through SDR Secrets. That was probably November event, I guess, right?
November event, and then the most recent one we sat together in the back, right?
Yeah. So Jason's doing some awesome stuff in his business and within SDR Secrets as well. So it's gonna be a good one.
So Jason, welcome. It's great to meet you.
Likewise, it's great to see you both. Scott, we encountered each other many years ago at SDR WealthCon. I forget which year. You were running your booth. I was, walking through the vendor area, talking to everybody under the sun. Jeremy, we connected through SDR Secrets, as you just mentioned. Yeah. And we have Smart Stay Show. That's our podcast, 285 episodes.
Nice.
And we're on a little bit of a hiatus right now from recording. We were religious in putting one out every single week for many, many years, but we'll get back on that horse in just a little bit. So I appreciate the intro and the invite, and I certainly hope that I can add some value to the audience here.
It's a good podcast, so anybody who's listening who hasn't listened should listen to it. Every time you drop one, I'm always checking it out.
Jason, you've also been a loyal OG member of MarketMYSTR too, haven't you?
I have, actually. When you and Bill announced this thing many years ago and you announced a founder's rate, I said, I'm going to lock that in. And we have been, I get that bill every month. I send it to my bookkeeper. But we do use MarketMYSTR. It is our database for any past guests and guest data that we can collect. I mentioned to you offline that we're using StayFi at many of our properties, and they talk really well. Our website is actually a landing page off of MarketMYSTR. So these many, many years of Pride Away stays, and that's what we're using as our primary website. We have property websites that are all subdomains off that one. And we don't have to go into it too much because I'm embarrassed as to the features of MarketMYSTR that I am not using. And there are many. But there are a lot. But we have the triggered emails going, and it took a hot second for us to finally realize that we should get those out there. And I need to see how well they're doing. But I think they're doing well. Our business is going great.
Yeah. Well, offline, Scott and I were previously this morning talking about MarketMYSTR, and it sounds like there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe to make doing those things that much easier. So I'm excited for that. Although part of us going to do all of it. So
Jason, we have to do like an exclusive Muth discount or something for anybody who listens to your podcast.
Oh, geez.
Who can come on and get MarketMYSTR because of you. They get a special deal. We'll have to talk about that. All right, so let's get to it. Hey, the reason why we're here today is because we want you to tell us your story. We want to get some insights from you. You have kind of been a rocket ship here in your business, from what I'm told. I don't know a lot about the details, but I like it that way when I interview because I get to learn. So let's start by telling us your story, not just the recent goals, but where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Some of that stuff.
I'm from outside New York City, so just north of New York. Jeremy, you're Long Island or Connecticut, right?
Connecticut, but grew up in Westchester.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in Rockland County, New York, and ended up here in New England for college. I went to Brown and Providence, and then went back home for a couple of years down in Jersey for a few, and then moved back to Boston in 2001. So we've been in the Boston area for about 25 years now. We live in Newburyport, Mass., which is 40 miles north of Boston, a beautiful coastal community. But I spent about 20 years in the city working in the media business of all things, which kind of goes hand in hand with having a podcast, which oddly enough was supposed to be the vehicle for my husband and his real estate law business to take off, because it was initially called the Real Estate Law Podcast. And I forced him to do it because, he's more the introvert. I'm more the extrovert. I knew how to do podcasting. I not media trained, but I've been around media for so long. So we launched that thing talking about real estate law, and then it turned into lots of different real estate topics. And then once I started doing short-term rentals professionally full-time, not as like that weekend warrior, we switched it over into Smart Stay Show, which is what it is right now. But yeah, long story short, we bought our first real estate investment in 2016. I was 40 years old or 41 years old. So like I'm kind of proof positive that Gen X people can do this later in life as well. I always like to talk about that because lots of people think they're too old to get started, and they're very much not. We were those weekend warriors, right? We were fixing up the property on the weekends. We were Airbnb-ing it. We were trying to figure things out along the way. We made a lot of mistakes, but we kept at it. We listened to a lot of bigger pockets. We felt like real estate investing was a great way to have a side income that could eventually turn into something more than that, which is what it's happened. And then we ended up adding on some land, and then a second property, and then a third property, and then we built on the land for a fourth property, and then a fifth property that we ended up selling 3 years after we bought it. And then along the way, we did this co-hosting business in Provincetown, Massachusetts. But I launched much of that, like the world that you know me as, is really 4 years old. Because in my last job, I was a digital sales director for a local media company in Boston. And I worked for a bunch of national companies, a bunch of local companies. And people knew that I did this on the weekends. So like a lot of my questions from my coworkers were like, how are you guys doing all this real estate stuff on the side? And, once I realized that could become my next chapter, whatever that's going to be. Once, they came knocking and said that the job is no more, I had a very easy transition into this short-term rental world. Going back to 2022, when I joined the STR Secrets Mastermind and started going to conferences, STR WealthCon, I went to one of their retreats they did in Miami. I just changed my identity just like that. I said, listen, I need to be this new person if this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And let me give myself a good 18 months to invest in myself, spend some money on meeting some people, masterminds, conferences, learn the space professionally, and then see where that takes me. It took me in STR Secrets. I joined that group, which is a mastermind group that we're in, where I was very adamant. I did not want to co-host. I did not want to answer to people. I did not want to have clients. I already came from that world for many, many years. And said, I just want to be my own boss. I want to manage my own properties. I want to build out my portfolio and then ride off into the sunset. That was the goal the first year of STR Secrets. But then I saw an opportunity in Provincetown, and I said, nobody's doing it the way that I think it should be done, that we're being trained on how to do with all the great operations and systems, getting great tech partners like MarketMYSTR and Price Labs and Hospitable and all these different awesome companies that help us build these tech stacks. And I said, I think I could do it in Provincetown. I just need to see if I'm going to like having clients, right? So we started taking small bites that very first year. I approached a friend of mine who I've known for 10, 15 years now. I met him in the softball leagues here in Boston, who also was doing short-term rentals. I said, I have this idea. Do you want to partner? So we're unequal partners on this business, but like we talk all the time about it. And he wanted to partner, which is a great way that I was able to gain the confidence that I could do this because I didn't want to do it by myself. It was going to be lonely and a lot of stress. So I said, let me get somebody else involved who has a bit of a different network from me, and we could be complementary with who we know and who we bring in and who helps serve our business. And that's exactly how it turned out. The first year, it's been almost 2 years since we got our first client. So 2 years ago, I think April 3rd, 2024, we got our first client. And we're recording this at the end of April right now. I don't know when it's going to come out. But the very first year, we went through the first summer with 5 clients and we didn't break anything, and the system seemed to work. Our training worked out great. I didn't hate it. And then we added on a bunch of clients at the end of the year. So we finished the first year with 11 clients. The second year, we set a goal to have 25 by the end of the year, and we had 27. Nice. And then now we set a goal for 50 by the end of this year. And I think I have 41 or 42. I forget what the actual number is. It's somewhere in the low 40s right now. And then when you factor in the properties that we own, my partner has 2, my business partner has 2, and then I have 4. We're up to about 50 different properties that our team is responsible for at this point. So that's how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, incredible growth.
So you touched on some of the why you're doing it. Like, encapsulate the why. Why are you doing it?
Well, we need money, right? To fund our lifestyles. I mean, I probably could sell everything and just put it into a fund and collect 4% interest and do nothing, right? That's what I could do. Right. But I mean, like, you guys are both entrepreneurs. I mean, Scott, you've built up MarketMYSTR. There's a bit of pride in constructing this and using our brains and using our knowledge. And I get a lot of satisfaction knowing that I built something, that I put something together, that I have this level of credibility, that I'm invited on podcasts like this to talk about this. Right before this call, a friend of mine sent another friend to me to give some really basic initial advice on how to start with short-term rentals. So I put a lot of content out there to resonate with folks, to get them to realize that this is what I do now. And it's attracting people to me asking for opinions and advice on this subject. And I appreciate that very much. Like, I like being able to give back to people with, what I know, but I also feel proud of what I've built. Right. And, we as my family can say that we own this, that we're doing good for our clients. We have 40 clients that are trusting their properties with us, that they don't want to do it themselves. So they have to find somebody like us that are truthful, that are honest, that work really hard, that can allow them to own those properties in a place like Provincetown, which is super expensive, and cover their expenses and make a little bit of money possibly. So, that's why we're doing it. I mean, like, I honestly did not build this business thinking that it could be something that is sellable in the future. As naive as I am.
Right.
I didn't have entrepreneurship in my DNA many years ago. I thought I would just be working for people forever, and then you retire, you have some stuff saved up, and that's your life. But I was forced to be in this position, frankly. When my last job ended, the prospect of somebody in their mid to late 40s trying to get another job in that field that is shrinking, the media business is shrinking, local media is shrinking. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I have no interest in that at all. So how am I going to play out the next 20 years of what I'm supposed to be working?
Yeah.
And this is it. And it's extremely exciting. It's very gratifying to be doing the work that we're doing. I love meeting people like you guys that are also kind of on this same trajectory.
Yeah.
And it just gives me a lot of just personal gratification to be able to do this.
Nice. Sure. Well, let's transition to some business model and operational questions.
Yeah, and love everything you're saying. I think maybe there is a world where you can sell, and then maybe you're back to, you own this really awesome portfolio with some of those funds, right? And you have it in a So maybe there's an option for something down the road for you, but we'll see.
There could be. I mean, again, I didn't see that. That was not why we launched the business.
Sure.
And again, I feel dumb and naive for not even thinking that. But now, when you see a business that we have 40 something properties right now, like, we're planning on having over $2 million of booking value. So our cut of that is a percentage of that. Along, and we think it's a real business, right?
Yeah. No, same. Scott and I didn't think about that either until recently, right? It was more of like, we'll have this as a long-term thing, but you never know, things change. So yeah, let's just kind of hop in, talk a little bit about the business model and your operation. So you're at 50-ish listings now. Sounds like a 10th or so of that is between you and your business partner owned.
Yep, 6.
For the balance, is it more of the property management model? Is it the co-host model? Is it kind of like a hybrid of the two? Just curious how you're kind of running it.
I mean, I guess we should just define the terms a little bit. Like, I always call it co-hosting. I try to steer away from the term property management. Like, maybe it's just mentally, I don't want to be a property manager or have that responsibility, but maybe that's that is kind of what we are. Like, we own all the listings, so we're not co-hosts on the listings that somebody else owns. Like, we just don't do it that way. We collect all the funds into an escrow account and then we disperse the money. So I know the co-hosting model I think that you're referring to is where Airbnb might be paying out 80% to this person, 20% to that person, right? And then, or you're chasing the money, right? Like, where the person that owns the listing collects all the money and then you're invoicing them to go get paid. Like, that's not what we do at all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that makes sense. And Scott and I have, as we're trying to get our first client, kind of has massaged the way that we're going to do it. And we're going to do it similar to you. We're going to collect all the funds, but we do think there's an advantage of saying that they own the listing. And ideally, I know there's some people in secrets who do it this way, but like maybe they just change the password to the client's login or something, because maybe they don't even really want access to it, right? But they can still leave with that listing if they want. So one thing I'm really excited to go into is how you were able to get all of these clients. Scott and I have spent a lot of time, we've been cold calling, doing Facebook ads, right? Like a lot of the things that people preach. You have a little bit of a unique story. So I'd love for you to kind of go into it for us.
So we have not made a single cold call, and I've not run a single Facebook ad. Like we boost our posts on Instagram, right? But it's really
Sure.
for brand. Like the posts that I boost on Instagram are really an ode to Provincetown. Like I'm always boosting things that are going to get people excited to go to Provincetown. Let me just explain what Provincetown is, right, to your listeners. It's the very, very tip of Cape Cod. It's the end of Route 6. You could hop on Route 6 in Provincetown and end up in California. It goes straight across the country. It is a very LGBTQ plus friendly place, probably the most friendly gay town in the country, you know, less Palm Springs and Key West and some of those other markets. But like, it is like the Mecca. It's an international destination that everyone, you know, in the gay world knows. It's an old Portuguese fishing village as well. And it's an artist community, you know, so it's all these things in one. And it's a very unique place. Real estate is very expensive there. It's often a big badge of honor for people in the gay world to say they own property in Provincetown. So it's a big kind of career aspiration.
Sure.
So we took that knowledge and also being owners in P-Town. I have a place there. My business partner, Ethan, has a place there. We spoke with credibility. We said, we have done this in this market. We know people in this market and we can help you, owner, busy, gay professional living in an urban area with your fabulous life and your partner who doesn't want to deal with all this stuff on the short-term rental side. Let us do it for you, right? So like we kind of had our pitch down pretty easily.
Did you guys owned before you started bringing on?
Yeah, I bought my place in 2018. He bought his probably 2021 or something like that. You know, so again, we had so much credibility to be able to speak as owners in the market. And we hyper-focused on just that one zip code. So we don't even take any listings in the neighboring towns. We're focusing just on Provincetown with intention. When we launched, we started to do a soft launch on social media. We sponsored our local gay flag football league, which we're a part of. I've been involved with that league since 2008. And we started just talking. And we identified a list of potential friends of ours who know a lot of people and just started getting the word out there that we were doing it. And we started putting it on our own social that this is what we do, right? So we had to kind of announce it to our network. Yeah. Separate from that, we pulled some records from the town website that were tax records that were that basically identified the property addresses and owners and mailing addresses and taxable values, all public information. And we combined that information with the info that we requested from the town, which was who has a short-term rental certificate. Right. So we got all that. We put all that in a database, had some help offshore to get that all together. Did a little bit of skip tracing on top of that to try to get phone numbers and email addresses. And we did direct mail to many of those property owners, people that we thought were the highest potential to become clients of ours. We prepared a beautiful mailer, put it in a really brightly colored envelope. I hand addressed everything, sent out about 400 or 500 of them. And my business partner followed up with some emails to people. So I said we didn't cold call, but like he did send some emails to these folks, like introducing who we were, kind of try to get them in two spots. But it was not through a marketing company. It was all done DIY. I used to fold the mailers and stuff them while I was watching NFL football. And I just remember the process really well. And that got a couple hits. So, you know, a lot of people think that we got all of our clients through direct mail. I know in our mastermind, they always have me talk about direct mail. Oddly enough, I worked in the digital marketing space, you know, like for many, many years. So we always sold against direct mail. But I thought direct mail was probably the right way to really hone in on these specific owners. And all we needed was a handful. And we got a handful. So we had a QR code on the mailer, drove people over to a MarketMYSTR landing page. Yeah, that they could download a ultimate second homeowner's guide in Provincetown. Yeah. So we saw when people downloaded it, because I received an email from MarketMYSTR saying somebody downloaded this. So then we could follow up with them and say, hey, I saw that you downloaded our guide. Is there any questions that you have? And then we just started setting up some phone calls with some of those people that showed initial interest. And we closed a few of them. And that's what got us into the first summer. And then suddenly we started getting a lot of word of mouth from our owners, from our cleaners, from real estate agents that are in town. And we started getting referrals in that manner. So we did direct mail 3 different times. So we sent out 3 mailers, all really similar, probably 6 months apart. And now we're sending out some mailers to people as they purchase properties as a way to introduce ourselves to them. We are not doing it with the degree of regularity that we should be, and we're not doing it much more scientifically than what I've described. But we seem to be getting a lot of leads coming our way with what we've put out there. that's how we're growing right now. We're getting about 2 clients a month, and it's been that way for about a year and a half. So,
that's great. I think
Yeah.
you just needed those few, right? Those first few, and then you can build up that track record and that street cred, and get
Yep.
all those referrals coming in. So two things. So you mentioned you actually combined a strategy, I guess, of getting just overall homeowner records from the county, and then
From the town.
also from the town, and then also the short-term rental permit.
Correct. And then we
Right.
matched those up, and then we basically
Right.
excluded people whose primary mailing address was Provincetown because we assumed that they
They
were
live there.
that they lived there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Got it. Cool. Okay. No, awesome. And I love that you were doing it, the old traditional method of let me stuff these myself and handwrite the envelopes.
yeah. DI.
Right. All right. So scaling and growth questions for you. So you mentioned you're going to be at about 50 at the end of the year. What do you see going forward? Another like 12, 24 months. Like, is there like, what's the goal, right? Is the goal just to keep scaling until you feel like, okay, I think I need to just stay where I'm at and make sure, quality maintains, or is there
Yeah.
like another level that you think maybe you would look to go to?
I mean, we haven't set our goals for 2027 or next year at this point just
Yeah.
yet. I think we want to get through the summer. May through October is the busiest season for us. It's a highly seasonal market. July and August specifically are the busy months. But as a company, we pull in about 90% of our revenue from May through October. So we're about to enter the busy months. And I'm the limiting factor in our business. Like, I'm the one that says, oh my God, can we handle this? So I think that what our focus is going to be in these next few months is operations. Like, we just want to make sure that the guests are happy, the owners are happy, the properties are safe, and that everybody has a great experience with Pride Away stays, and that we have a great experience doing the work that we're about to do. I'll probably have a better answer for you in terms of growth goals after the summer, right? Like, right now, we're not actively looking to take on new properties.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that we won't. We onboarded pretty much last year, we onboarded clients every single month of the year, even during the summer. And that's really because people aren't going to switch over to us in the summer from another property management company because they already have their rentals on the books. But there's always people purchasing property. And if you're going to buy a property in May and close on it, you need to get licensed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You need to get your license by Provincetown. You need to get photos and up and running. So there's still a couple weeks after you close that you want to get the property going. But I wouldn't be surprised if we hear from some people in May and June that just bought properties who want to get going for whatever tail end of the season they can get and start getting some rentals. So that's where we think we'll pick up throughout the summer. Usually I go to Provincetown once every month or once every 6 weeks, and I physically walk every property myself. At least up to this point I have. I'm there with our photographer for every property. I'll be there in 2 weeks from today to do photos at 3 different properties that we're about to onboard. So we're kind of always in the onboarding mode, but this summer the focus is going to be on our ops. We just hired an intern, which is
Okay.
knock on wood that all pans out. Somebody who's going to be in town who we're hoping will find housing on the Cape this summer. That's the goal. And we just want to make sure that we have a good, solid operation. Presuming that we will, which I'm confident that we will, once the summer's over, I have a feeling we'll hit our goal of 50 by the end of the year. Right now you say 50 because it includes the 6 that we own, which technically are part of our hospitable and everything. They count. Pride Away technically has the 40-something clients right now, but Pride Away should get up to about 50 by the end of the year. And then next year, I don't see why we can't add on another 2 per month, like in perpetuity. There's about 850 or 875 licensed short-term rental properties in Provincetown.
I didn't realize there was that many.
It's a good amount. I mean, it's a lot of second homeowners that have these big mortgages who want some income to help support that property. But man, we have less than 5% of the market. We got plenty of room to go.
Yeah. So you were talking about operations, and so right now you have 40 something listings all in Provincetown, right? So what does operations look like for you? Do you have like multiple cleaning companies that you're working with across multiple listings? Do you have a bunch of different handymen, and like kind of talk us through that? Like, how does somebody who's got 50 listings in one spot kind of make sure that's all running well?
Yeah. We're working with 11 different cleaning companies, which people think is insane. But But I don't. In fact, I think I wouldn't have it any other way. Like if I gave it all to one person, then I would be really worried if we were to have a falling out or there'd be a problem. So we kind of spread it across a number of different cleaners based on their capacity and based on who we hear from. A lot of times we will work with an owner that has a cleaner and they're like, do I have to use your cleaners or can we use this person I've been using for 10 years? I said, give me their name. Like we'll talk to them and see if they could, work within our systems. And usually that's how we've grown our list. And then what happens is those cleaners will then give us referrals because we'll give them a referral fee if they do. And then they get to keep the cleanings also for those properties. So, I think that having an army of cleaners both serves us on the operational side, but also serves us on the growth side. We have a primary kind of handy person runner that we work with in town who runs her own business. And has a network of contractors and subcontractors that she works with, but we funnel a lot of the work through her. We do have a couple others that will funnel for a variety of reasons, but we check in with them on a regular basis. I mean, we're in touch with them probably every day for something.
Sure.
And they're just a different company. So it's a 1099, basically. They invoice us the end of the month per property, and we pay that. And that model has worked out really well for us instead of having a W-2 employee in the market. And we've done that and we keep saying, can we give you more? Can we give you more? And the answer is yes. You could keep giving us more handyman work. We're absolutely taking more handyman work on. So
you're helping her scale too.
Yeah, we're helping. Absolutely. We've helped her grow her business. So we're really grateful that we've been able to help her. And she has a growing family too. She just had her second baby and, they need the money and they're doing a great job for us across lots of properties. So that's kind of what our operations team looks like on the ground, with this intern that we have that just started, great student that we found who will be with us for the summer, for about a 3-month period. We expect that person to do a lot of QC work for us, quality control in between cleanings, do some running work for us in town, capture some social media footage for us. We have a couple social media people that work on the Pride Away Stays accounts. So I need some more original footage. And if I have somebody who's going to be in town on a regular basis, I'll be able to get some great footage this summer that we could then leverage for the brand. And we have VAs, so we're working with 2 VAs in the Philippines who do a phenomenal job. They are, amazing at what they do. They know the properties really well. They interface with the owners and they interface with the cleaners and me. And that's our current operations. We'll probably add on an operations manager at some point in the next, say, 6 to 12 months.
Cool. Quality control inspections, I think, are always a challenge, especially on same day flips. I love the Cape, grew up going there for my first 20 something years. My parents were teachers. So every August we went for 1 to 2 weeks and they actually lived in Provincetown for a bunch of summers prior to having kids. So they knew it very well. But I know from what I remember in the Cape, it was always like a Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday. Is that the same in Provincetown? Is it everybody flips pretty much on the same day and he's going to be running around like crazy and running into each one of these properties, or is it a little more staggered in P-Town?
I mean, the Saturdays are the busiest ones. They're the busiest days. All the cleaners are super busy. Oddly enough, all the guests that are coming on Saturdays, everybody wants to check in early. Hey, we're on the early ferry. Can we get in early? It's like, you and everybody else, right? But we don't require Saturday turnovers.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's also why we've done really well with optimizing revenue, because we're picking off a lot of the old school listings that just did it the same way forever. Saturday to Saturday, 7 nights. That's how we do it. Now, condo associations, and there's a lot of condos in town, a lot of them have rules about weekly rentals, especially in the summertime. It's like we kind of have to abide by those. We'll make some exceptions here and there, but it does limit our ability with some of the specific properties. But if we are not limited, then we will do turnovers on any day of the week. And the cleaners love it. If they could do turnovers on Mondays through Fridays, oh my God, they're happy as a clam.
Yeah.
So I could go take a look and see, we Saturdays are definitely the busiest turnover day that we have, but by no means are we a Saturday to Saturday week-long company. And
right. Yeah,
I think the companies that are that, especially on Cape Cod, it's just such an old model that is probably going to break in a couple of years for them.
Yeah, I think the Cape still has a lot of those traditional property managers where people are still bringing their sheets and have to go and buy toilet paper and paper towels and all that stuff, right?
I'm always amazed when I get the question, do I have to bring sheets? I was like, what?
Yeah.
Do you have to do what? Of course not, right? But that's what Cape Cod rentals have been for years.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So the plan is dominate P-Town, maybe not go into another market, right? Seems like you probably don't really need to if you can crush it where you are. What do you think would be one thing you've learned growing your business that you kind of wish maybe you knew earlier? Any maybe is there something that you're currently doing that you think might change as you continue to grow?
I mean, I did get some advice from somebody about like once we hit the level that we're at right now, that we'll probably need to add on some folks that are doing the work that I do.
Yeah.
Right. So, we've heard it from, the team at STR Secrets. I spoke with some other folks in the industry that, buy and sell these types of companies. And they said, when you hit around 50, like you just really, really need to be the CEO of the company, and all that stuff that you're still doing, you need to go find operations manager to do those things for you. There's definitely some elements of our business that I still do because either I like to do them or I'm a control freak. I have passed on a lot of things to my team, which allows them to get better at what they do and contribute more to everything. But I've always really been willing to do almost everything with the company first, so I understand how to do it. But I still pay all the bills. I do have a bookkeeper, but I do kind of work hand in hand with the bookkeeper. Like I'm the one that's uploading receipts and coding things and checking owners' reports.
Yep.
And, going back and forth on that. I have not passed that on to somebody just yet, but that's probably the next thing that I will pass on at some point. And yeah, I need to behave as the CEO more. And I think early on when I talked to some of the first couple clients and some people that maybe didn't even become clients, they didn't quite understand how we were going to run this business, not in P-Town. Like, cause I don't live in Provincetown. And like you tell them like, hey, I have a place in P-Town, but I don't live there. They're like, well, then how are you going to do this job? And, the answer is, well, we're probably not going to work together. Like you're not the right fit for me.
Right.
And it, you're hiring my company. Like you're not hiring me to do a job for you. Right. And there's no insult or disrespect to that, but it's incumbent upon us to not be the everything. Like I cannot be the stopgap and the bottle point for every communication point or everything with our company. Like you're hiring our company. And I try to make it very clear to everybody that I am easily accessible. If you need me as an owner, if you have a question, here's our company number that you could text back and forth throughout the day. Here's the email address that I want you to use so both me and other people on the team can read it. And then here's my link to Calendly if you need to schedule time specifically with me. You could book it, right? But a lot of the responses that come back to people now are my team responding. That I'm watching, I'm following along. But when I intervene, when I jump into these conversations that I've empowered VAs to do, it confuses the VAs.
Sure.
Right. And I'm telling them, here's what your job is. Here's how to answer these things. Let me know if you have questions about how to answer it or if you need help with an answer. But if they're going back and forth with a guest or an owner, and then suddenly they see this message that came out of nowhere from the owner, they're like, well, wait a second. Like, am I doing this or is Jason doing this? And that's hard to be hands off of. Like, because
you also have to be watching then too, right? Because you don't know if something's going to drop or slip through if they're not responding because they think maybe you're going to respond, but it's not really something you're paying attention to.
Right. So just when you think you're being helpful, you're actually being harmful because you're not allowing the people that you've empowered to do their jobs completely. So that is something that I think took a little bit of practice. And at first, when I hired VAs, I did not let them do guest communication. Just like right now, I'm still doing bill paying and a lot of the financial stuff besides my bookkeeper. We might talk a year from now and that'll be somebody else's job at my company. And it'll be silly that I kept it for as long as I did. That's what I'd like a year from now to look like.
Yeah, I think it will. Cool. That's a good segue though. Handing things off. Let's maybe talk a little bit about tech in your business. I think for everybody in this business who's more new, kind of like us, I think technology is a huge role. And I think you're probably going to start handing off more and more faster and faster, especially with all the AI things that are coming down the pipe here. What do you think is like maybe one or two tech tools that your business probably couldn't live without?
We're lucky that we signed up with Hospitable back in the day. And it was really because I liked their user interface and I thought that like that was the better one. And they have really accelerated their product over the years. And that's our property management software. It's our direct booking software. They're trying to be everything to everyone. We're not using them for pricing. And I know they have dynamic pricing right now. And I know they just announced like a damage protection or something like that. Like they're trying to do everything. But we're using them for what we use them for. And they're a fantastic partner. Price Labs has really allowed us to dig into our markets and understand how to price our properties correctly, build comp sets, and really optimize revenue. Like hands down, once I put Price Labs in place at our places up in New Hampshire, which are the ones we own, I was able to get, a good 10, 15% more revenue by doing nothing different besides pricing it correctly.
Are you doing all your revenue management still, or have you handed that off to a?
Yeah, I do that too. So I forgot to mention that I do that too. In fact, it's today. I was supposed to do it this morning, but I'm a little under the weather, so I might push this off this afternoon. But like I do my own revenue management.
Yeah.
Like, should I have somebody else do it? Probably, but again, I'm doing that.
Yeah, sure.
I think I do it well. Like, I don't know. I think I do a pretty good job with our revenue management. So, but yeah, so those two, we use HostBuddy for AI communications, like when VAs are not working, when VAs have to take days off or whatever it is, I'll just, expand the hours of HostBuddy, which is helpful is that it gives us communication with guests as it comes in. HostBuddy, I think they're integrated with Quo, which is open phone, but I don't have HostBuddy talking to my cleaners or anything like that. So I still think there's a need for
How has
VA.
HostBuddy been so far?
Great. I think it's been great. I mean, every so often it goes off the rails and you kind of have to like redirect it. But, I think like 85, 90% of the time it's fine. And I have it set to always say, like, hey, let me check with the team. Like, cause you could set it to answer a couple different ways. We use Notion for our internal property, kind of information. That's our second brain, as they say in the mastermind. Notion is connected to HostBuddy. We have tons of property information in Notion, so it kind of feeds HostBuddy what it needs to know. But my team also uses Notion to go look stuff up if they need to know about where something is located at a property. MarketMYSTR, as I mentioned earlier, we're using for building our database. We use it for public-facing websites and landing pages. And then we use it for triggered emails and campaign emails that we send out. We have StayFi at all our properties, most of our properties. So we have guest Wi-Fi that allows guests to log in securely to a Wi-Fi system, keeps them off the owner's Wi-Fi, and then allows us to learn more about all the people staying at the property, not just the person who booked it, because it gives us, insight into the other 4 or 5 people who might be there. We use Breezeway for turnovers. My cleaners are on there.
All the cleaners are using Breezeway?
No.
Okay.
they should be, but
some of them. It's impressive that you got all 11 that are probably, some of them are small mom and pop, shops.
Some of them like it, some of them just don't use it. But I think that we onboarded Breezeway, then I let my VAs kind of like take that over. And I don't know, I'm probably paying for some other softwares that I'm forgetting to name right now.
And there's going to be more that are coming down the pipe here.
Yeah, I have Claude and OpenAI. We're using both those for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
My VA is trained in Photoshop and the Adobe suite of products. So whenever we get photos back from our photographer, we do additional enhancements, color correcting, maybe adding flowers and, food and that kind of thing to the countertops.
Yeah.
So we're heavily using that. Sunsets, just like the tips that real estate professionals do. Nothing that's going to really fundamentally change the property. So we're presenting something that is fake, but just things that are going to catch people's attention a little bit better.
Yeah. Nice. I'm actually switching to Hospitable. I'm scheduled to switch them on Monday.
Good for you.
They were the initial PMS that I was using when I started back in 2021. I really was frustrated with the VRBO connection back then. And, the whole thing then wasn't, they weren't around to scale, and I wanted to try and scale. So then I switched. But like you said, they've done amazing things. They are the easiest to use, and they seem to make the most sense. HostBuddy I've been interested in, but everything's changing so fast that like people are now, so like Matt Codd from Co-Host Pros created his own connection, I think with Claude, to do communication to guests through Hospitable. So it's like, do you need like a host away at this point, or are we already at that point where everybody can just kind of create their own by giving that, AI the information it needs to be able to answer?
Yeah. I mean, AI was nothing like it is now. When I kind of first rechristened myself as a short-term rental person in 2022, right? Yeah. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be aware of what tools are out there and when we should add them on.
Right.
But when I joined STR Secrets, I found myself very confused as to the amount of different tech companies that were out there, and I didn't know which direction to pick. Yep. And I'm really good at picking a direction and going with it. Literally, I make a decision. I mean, I'm bad at making small decisions at a grocery store, but I'm good at making big decisions. And it's like, okay, that's what I want. So you make the decision and you move on. So like Hospitable's been my PMS for 4 years. I hear from HostAway all the time. I hear from these other companies, like, OwnerRez is out there, and, Guesty is the other one that's out there or something. Like, I just tune it out. I'm like, you know what? Hey, cool. You got a great product, but like, here's where I am. Until they annoy me to the point that I want to fire them, I've made the decision. I've moved on. Right. Yeah. So I know everyone's building Claude agents right now, and they're integrating with Notion and this and that. And they're building these massive tech stacks. And I don't want to be naive to the point that I ignore it all.
Right.
But I got to say, like, I got to just keep growing and keep operating. And I think that our systems are working really well right now. I'll do an audit toward the end of the year. But I think if I focus too much on all this other tech that's out there, it's going to pull me away from really where I should be focusing.
100%. I mean, people are spending insane amount of time figuring out all this AI now. And one thing I'm excited for it, one thing that does make me a little nervous is if we're building out all these connections ourselves and then something breaks and something will break, like how much are we going to be scrambling to figure out how to fix that versus like calling tech support at HostBuddy or Hospitable and, making sure they get it fixed.
So what I'd like to do is let the super smart people that are investing hours in doing this to go figure it out. And then when they go sell their thing, I'll go buy it. It's like Notion. Like I bought it. I had Michael Dinwiddie train me, like, for 4 sessions.
You're part of the mastermind and they're willing to give it to you for that, right? Which is one of the pluses of being in a mastermind. So
I don't know how willing they are to give things away these days, but
something, a taste at least. So say somebody's just starting out, what would you recommend be like the go-to thing to start in tech? Because it is overwhelming. There's so many options, right?
100%.
For different things. So let's just say 1 or 2 things. What do you think? Somebody wants to start a co-hosting business this week. What do you think they should go ahead and use as a tech start?
Hospitable and Price Labs.
Yeah.
Or just use Hospitable. Like, they have their own dynamic pricing software. The reason we're not using it is because Price Labs has just been doing it for so long, and I just trust their data. But and then don't let Price Labs run amok, right? Like Price Labs is great, but it could really give you a false sense of what your property is worth if you're not paying attention to it. Like you need to be an active user to Price Labs, build good comp sets, get a market dashboard, realize where you are in the market, what percentile you should be operating in, and then realize that your second year is going to be better than your first year usually. So like where you are the first year, you might be 30th, 40th percentile, but maybe with good reviews, you're 50th or 60th.
Right.
So, but those two are starting point. I forgot to mention TouchStay. I feel embarrassed I didn't mention them. Like we have interactive guidebooks through TouchStay, and our guests love them. We used to use Hostfully, and they were a great partner, but I just met people at STR WealthCon, and they took me out for dinner, and I switched. So
that's all they have to do.
That's all they had to do, and we got it all switched over to TouchStay, and their guys are great. Yeah,
nice. One thing that I have seen recently with AI is using Claude to create guidebooks and then throwing the code into MarketMYSTR and having a pretty nice guidebook created by AI. It's pretty wild these days.
Okay,
cool. Well, I think with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Scott. He's got some questions for you.
Well, as I listened to this interview, I went down the rabbit hole of just learning about Provincetown, the geography, pulling up Google Maps, all this stuff. So Jason, I know you talked about at the beginning about high season, peak season, and what happens there. And so I personally believe that place is one of many probably where off season might be a really spectacular place to go. So let's focus on a couple seconds, a minute or so. Why is it such a great place to go out of season?
So the shoulder season is kind of what everyone calls June, May, September, October. Mm-hmm. You get everything's open still. You get similar degrees of warmth, right? Like it's not frigid just yet. And the crowds are not there. And the prices are better. The summer is extremely, extremely busy. July and August is just, those 9 weeks right there is just off the charts, right? Go there because you'll see all your friends. You'll make new friends. You'll make the Provincetown memories that you want to make, the people that go there every single year. And there's certain weeks that are like theme weeks. Bear Week is a big week in July. Carnival is a big week in August. There's Family Week in the end of July that, LGBTQ plus people bring their families, people of all types. And then there's other themes throughout the year that are not secondary, but just aren't as extremely popular as those. There's Women's Week, there's Trans Week of Visibility, there's Week People of Color, there's Gay Pilots Week, there's the Tennessee Williams Festival, there's the Provincetown Film Festival, there's something all the time. There's Holly Folly, there's Spooky Bear, there's all these different things that happen throughout the year that the Provincetown Business Guild does a great job in helping promote. And it's a great way to draw people into town during the non-summer period. Again, everything is open. So things start opening up the end of April, early May. All the restaurants, all the shops are open. They stay open through usually through the end of October, and then they'll open for weekends through the end of the year. And then usually the first quarter, it's just quiet, right? Like this was a really tough Q1 this year because we had some really, really bad blizzards hit Provincetown. Nothing like I'd ever seen before. There was a 5-day power outage that happened in February, and that actually caused a lot of damage to a lot of people's homes where pipes were freezing, temperatures inside were getting down into the 30s. But that's all Q1. That's all now past us. So I would recommend, if you've never been before, I would actually recommend going on shoulder season first. Maybe go in mid to late September when you could probably still go to the pool and the beach and it's not frigid and all the restaurants are still open and all the flowers are in bloom, and you can get a less expensive room if you go to prideawaystays.com and book direct.
So Jason, like I'm looking at the geography of Provincetown, and it looks like it's very similar to 38 in that there's the place to be seems to be west of 6, and then there's nothing on the other side. Is the development of Provincetown what it is, or are they going to develop more, or how does that look?
There's nowhere else to build. I mean, like north of Route 6 is the Cape Cod National Seashore.
Yeah, it's all like dunes and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's all dunes and it's beaches and it's forest and there's bike trails and walking trails. Basically, Route 6 is how you get into town. There's only one way to get to town. And then once you turn off Route 6, there's 2 main roads, Fruit Street and Commercial Street. They both kind of parallel each other. And all the properties are either along those 2 streets or on all the side streets between Commercial and Bradford or north of Bradford. And there's nowhere else to build. I mean, that's why property values are so high, because everything that's developable is developed. And, you know, they're building some more condos and apartments in town to help with affordability for people that live there full time. But everything you see right now is going to be infill development. It's going to be a property that exists that they knock down and they build a new one, or there's not a ton of parcels that are left.
So that seems to be a bit of what might be a challenge for you and your business. Where do all of your people that help you with cleaning, where do they live? How far do they have to travel?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like we have teams of people that live in Provincetown or North Truro, which is the town next to us. A lot of the other cleaners live elsewhere on the Cape. And strangely enough, they don't mind driving, right? Like these people understand that they could live 30, 40 miles away on Cape Cod, and they could drive into Provincetown, and it's probably not a ton of traffic, you know, so it's not a bad drive. I mean, people definitely commute. People who are listening to this are probably stuck in traffic somewhere, right? A 60-minute commute is not atypical in many places around the country.
They're also not traveling out there at the peak time that everybody's trying to get to P-Town. Right.
Yeah, but you know the cleaners, they know. Like, I mean, if it's going to be a Saturday, they'll probably get into Provincetown early in the day before all the Cape traffic gets there, and they'll be spending their time there all day. And then when they leave, it's in the afternoon after everyone's already left, like who spent their week or their few days there. So most housing is the number one challenge, housing and help. A lot of the companies that are in Provincetown and on the Cape, the bed and breakfasts, the restaurants, the shopkeepers, they will bring J1 visa candidates in, right, from elsewhere in the country. That's gotten more difficult these days with the political climate that we're in right now, where it's been restricted. So it's been tougher to find people from other countries to come in to help out in P-Town. But people live elsewhere on the Cape and they just drive in.
So fun fact, Jeremy, let's see if you guess it. Jason probably knows it. How many times does the population of Provincetown grow from how many people live there permanently to the high season?
I know the answer.
How many X times does it grow?
50.
Is this
100?
for Jeremy or for me?
For Jeremy. Jeremy's going to guess way wrong. He said 50.
Yeah.
What is the correct answer?
I believe there's 3,000 to 4,000 year-long residents, and the peak week is usually 60,000. So I'm going to say
gracious, that is exact.
Yeah.
Jason is ChatGPT today. It says
my hands were right here. I didn't do anything. That's in my head.
Provincetown is tied for 5th in the entire country for vacation markets from off-season to peak. Provincetown goes from 3,700 permanent residents to 60,000. Which represents a 16x. Is it a zoo, Jason? It's got to be a zoo, doesn't it?
It gets very, very busy in the summertime.
There's a lot of people walking around. I mean, everyone's walking around the streets. There's bars, there's restaurants, there's things to do. But yeah, it can get busy.
Fun fact of this is I've never been here. I don't plan to go. Given this fact, is it says Dewey Beach, Delaware, has a permanent residence of 300 people. It says it grows to 30,000 or 100x during high season.
I've never
So
been there either.
You're close,
haven't.
Jason, on like the prize for the most increase, but not.
Not quite there, no, but it's I'm gratified to know that I know my numbers pretty well.
Yeah.
So, Jason, what have we left out? We're at 53 minutes. We said this would happen, right? We just get
Yes, we
talking,
did.
and here we go. So let's spare people a potential 2-hour discussion that we seem like we could have at like no problem.
Yeah.
What did we miss? Like, what did we miss when it comes to your life that people should know about when it comes to someone who is listening to this, whether it's a person who might be visiting Provincetown or a person who is a co-hosting business that maybe could use a few pointers?
So for the latter, one thing that I've been really passionate about of late is talking to people in my age and my generation, like 45 to 54-year-olds, kind of the lower side of Gen X. A lot of us, we didn't grow up with technology. We were forced to figure technology out. My first email address was while I was in college. And now we're this smaller cohort of people that weren't boomers, but aren't like the tech forward millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha. We're still hanging on.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of story to write in our books, but we can't get forgotten, right? Like it's very easy for the higher income people that are my age group to be the ones that are let go when companies downsize, which they will, right? So my recommendation to people that are listening to this that are about my age is figure out your next chapter now. Like not your plan B, but what is the next thing that you're going to do? This could be a hyper-trained medical doctor who is burnt out, right? Like I've talked to people on our podcast who are former doctors and they're now real estate investors working with doctors that want to get out of the profession because it was just such a burnout during COVID and they're just done with it. Imagine like your whole life where you've been trained to do this thing. You go to med school, you do residency afterward, you're 31 years old, and now 15 years later, you're like, I'm done with this. Like, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? There's a lot of us there. You name the profession. You could be an architect. You could be an engineer. You could be a doctor. You could be a media professional, a salesperson like I was. You could be a tech sales. And next thing you know, you're out, right? Like, don't let your job be your identity. Figure out the next thing you're going to do and then start the transition. Like, because it's really hard to do it when you're let go. All right, now you got time. Now you're like, crap, I don't have like a plan B. I got nothing else that's going for me. And whether it was dumb luck or whether it was just me finding a thing that we like to do on the weekends, I had a good 5 or 6 year transition. Like, you know, from my first time I signed up to Bigger Pockets was 2015. First time I bought property was 2016 as an investment. And then my job ended in 2022. So I had a 6 or 7 year transition.
Right.
So when I got that phone call, like the only thing I worried about was the HELOC I couldn't close because I now couldn't prove my income.
Right.
That's literally the only thing I cared about. It was like, what's my severance? Let me collect. Here's what I'm doing next. I already knew it. So I would, if you're listening to this and you're kind of about my age and your age is, I don't know how old everyone is, but you know, figure that thing out. Whatever that is, it could be real estate. It could be not. In terms of Provincetown, like come visit. Like, come to our website. Like, you know, we can get you in a great place. Message us directly. I'll get you a discount code if you listen to this. And it's a really fun place to go visit many times during the year.
So for people who want to get in contact with you, so let's go through the channels, the website. Let's clearly state the website, all the ways that people can get contact with you for whatever reason.
Yep. So our website is prideawaystays.com, PRIDEAWAY stays.com. It's the same handle on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn very easily, Jason Muth, M-U-T-H. There is another guy with my name that does real estate on the West Coast, but it'll be pretty obvious that I'm not that person. And you know, those are the easy ways to find us. So shoot us a DM, message us on LinkedIn. And love to hear what your questions are.
And I know you took a hiatus, but there's a ton of valuable content that you published already that is, I'm sure, usable. Where can people listen to your podcast?
Smart Stay Show. So you can go to YouTube and you can Google Smart Stay Show, or you can go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There will be new episodes. We're just on our hiatus right now. It's a temporary hiatus, but
but there's still a lot of valuable content. I mean, I know that
tons of great content there.
Yeah.
Yes, and you guys are on my list of people I'm going to knock on the door to get you on our show once we start recording again.
Let's go. Well, let this be a close to this podcast. I want to sincerely thank you for being a customer of MarketMYSTR publicly. I appreciate the loyalty for sure. I appreciate you being a friend to Jeremy, because I know you guys are working in a friend to me, and we look forward to rooting you on and helping you in any way we can. And it's awesome, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
I will see everybody in the next episode. I think one of these, we talked about this, Jeremy. We're teasing them a little bit now, 2 weeks in a row. We're going to tell everybody how we got our first client here in the next episode.